Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Dad Whisperer. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson. It honestly is such a joy. I just keep being surprised that you're tuning in week after week. And I hope that even through the airwaves, you can hear my heart for you as dads that longs to inspire and equip you to better dial into your daughter's heart space. Well, if you're a dad and you're in line with the millions across the country who've waited till the last minute to get your Christmas gifts, you are going to be so happy that you tuned in today. Why, you ask? Well, here's why. Because I have a Christmas gift idea for you as a dad that you can get for your daughter, and listen to this, maybe even your son, and it's not going to cost you any money. It won't require driving to the mall, and it's only going to take an hour or so. I know. You could say you're welcome already. You are welcome. And I am going to be your new best friend in just a minute. I really believe that, because do you know why I can also add the truth that this is something that will be a favorite gift of all time for your daughter? The reason I can add that is because this is part of my story. And guess what it is? Writing a letter to your daughter. See, you don't have to go to the mall. It's not going to cost you any money, but it will take some of your time. And I guarantee it will be your daughter's favorite Christmas gift this year. Okay, now, before you turn the channel, because you may go, oh my word, I am not doing this. This Watson chick doesn't know what she's talking about. Hang in there. I'm going to tell you my story. Maybe you got to hear my dad when he was on the program with me a couple weeks ago, and we talked about Perfume Day. And today I'm going to share a little bit of how this has impacted my life from my dad to have him put it in writing, put his love in writing. So that's the On Your Mark. That's where I give you the topic every time we meet. Today, On Your Mark, as all of you dads are standing up there saying, okay, we're in a race to win our daughters' hearts. What do we do? You know, you got to get the shoes on. You have to have the gear on. You have to have worked out and prepared yourself, right, to run the race. So I'm going to help you do that as your coach. And I'm telling you today, the topic is On Your Mark. Put it in writing. Put your love in writing. I guess I could say the subtitle is a last-minute Christmas gift that's guaranteed to be the best, because that's the truth. Okay, that's On Your Mark. Get set. Now I'm going to fill it in with some stories. And as I want you to hear my heart as a daughter, I'm hopeful that I'm speaking for other daughters and letting you dads know that this is the way to our heart by you understanding how much your words mean to us. You guys remember that you've heard me say that what I've discovered from 7 years of traveling to Mars, I know men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and I consider myself bilingual now from traveling to your planet, men, and I have discovered that men would rather do nothing than do it wrong. And I say, but doing nothing is doing it wrong. But here's what else I've discovered. Is that you men, you dads, want to do it right. You want to get it right. So today, I'm going to help you get it right with your daughter as you put pen to paper, maybe it's fingers to keyboard, but as you put your love for her into writing. Let me tell you a story real quick. This past summer, I had my first KPDQ event where I got to attend Fish Fest in Salem. And I had amazing opportunities to hear stories of different people and keep the conversation going. And what I'll never forget is it was a 104-degree weather day, and we're all out there sweating, but connecting at the same time. I guess you could say we were trauma bonding out in that heat. But I remember that early that day, I had the privilege of talking to a dad who told me some of his story. And it included his 17-year-old daughter living in the Midwest with her mom. And he said that they text a few times a week, and that's how they've stayed connected. And I told him, that's awesome. I love it. Go, Dad. But then I said, would it be okay if I just made a suggestion to enhance what you're doing? And he looked at me, okay. And I said, what if you wrote her letters so she would have your love for her, your words in writing? Because I guarantee she will save what you've written. And well, he kind of hemmed and hawed. I don't know. And I could tell that he maybe wasn't all that impacted by my story. So about an hour or two later, I met another woman, and she ended up telling me that her husband of 38 years had just died that past November, about 9 months earlier, and she came to this event alone. And we got to talking about her dad, and I said, tell me about your relationship with your dad. And she said, well, he died a number of years ago, but she said when he used to go out of town for business, I didn't see him for long stretches at a time. And she said, but when I was in 8th grade, my dad was out of town for business, and he wrote me 2 letters during the time he was gone. And she said, I don't know quite how he did it, but I'm glad he did. And by the tone of her voice and her radiant smile, I knew which question to ask next. And I said, you're probably with me, Dad. Do you know what I asked her next? Did you save the letters? What do you think she said? She said, yes, I sure did. And her whole face lit up. And listen what she said next. She said, and I still have them. A woman in her late 50s still has the letters, the 2 letters her dad wrote her when she was a little girl. Dads, does that convince you how much your written words will be a keepsake that your daughter will, I can't guarantee it, but I'd say there's a high likelihood that she will save what you've written forever. So what was really cool at Fish Fest is I later found the man who had said, I don't know if I'm all that into writing. We really text is good. And I said, but it's lost. It can't remain. If you put it in writing, she will remember it. And I told him this other woman's story. So here's the deal, Dad. As we're filling in today in our conversation, you and me, this idea of putting your love in writing is I'm filling in this concept for you on the get set part of our conversation to understand anew today that when you put your words of love, affirmation, acceptance, belief, encouragement, applause, kindness, favor into writing for your daughter, she will most likely treasure it for a lifetime. Well, like I told you earlier, let me tell you why I believe so strongly in this. Because I have saved every card that my dad has ever made me. Now, my dad used to be a graphic designer, graphic guy. I still remember it was so cool when I was a young girl and he worked in San Francisco. Guess who he worked for then? This would have been in the late 60s. He worked for Charles Schultz, that whole Peanuts, Charlie Brown. We got all kinds of cool memorabilia. But my dad did a lot of graphic things. He was a typesetter for the newspaper. Oh, yeah. Back in the day where 1 letter at a time was set to make the Oregonian or make different newspapers. Isn't that wild that within our lifetime things were that antiquated? But my dad, I give it to him that he already has a wiring for artistry and for graphics. But he has made cards for us girls every birthday. So we get these masterpiece cards that my dad has made and put his love into writing. And I asked my dad, okay, what about men that say, I don't even know where to start? And I'm not marketing any certain programs, but I said, okay, Dad, we've got to tell guys where to get a software program if they want to do what you've done, because it already has the grid and then you can just fill in your daughter's name. It'll give you a template. So he said you could download this from Hallmark. He said it's called Hallmark Card Studio. He said there's Microsoft Home Publishing. There's another one called Print Art Gold. He said any of those three work. They're about $25 to $35. But look at, then you have the software, you put in cardstock, and voila, you are the hero that you want to be, because you've made your daughter something that she can hold on to that says why you love her. In fact, if you don't even believe my story, let me tell you about one of the ABBA Project dads that was in a while ago in the group a few years ago, and his 13-year-old daughter, Olivia. Okay, for those of you that either have had a daughter 13 or have one right now that's 13, you know that they go through that space of time where hormones are everywhere. Estrogen levels have pushed their moods into the far reaches of the corners of the earth, and you can't quite figure her out, can you? You're like, oh my word, between the emotional volatility, the emotional meltdowns, and the verbal cues that she's always just, I can't figure her out. I'm so lost. Well, that's what this dad said is, I don't know that a letter from me is going to have all that much impact. But he did it anyway. He wrote her a letter when he was in the ABBA Project. It's one of our assignments, I'll tell you honestly. And what he said is he was blown away that she kept it on the top of her desk, and that even when her friends came over, she left it out for them to see. And he said, I was blown away that she didn't want to hide the letters. How amazing is that? I love telling you stories of other people, not just me, not just my dad, not just guys in the ABBA Project, but even men that I run into on the streets or meet at Fish Fest, so that you get a more full breadth of this concept, more full breadth of understanding of how to reach your daughter's heart space consistently and intentionally. And if you have sons, this stuff works with them too. Even though my expertise is with daughters, I want you dads to know that any child will love this kind of attention and keepsake from you. Well, if you're just joining us today, my name is Dr. Michelle Watson. I am the Dad Whisperer, and my passion is to equip dads to dial in to their daughters' hearts. I'm author of the book, Dad, Here's What I Really Need From You, a guide for connecting with your daughter's heart. I lead men's groups in my home. I've done that for 7 years, where my home office is, and it's called the ABBA Project. ABBA meaning daddy in Aramaic, and men love a project. So dads, if you want to be a better dad to your daughters and to your sons, I hope that the things that I share from my experience will touch your heart and equip you to take action to be the best dad you can be and that your daughters need you to be. Well, let me continue today. On your mark is put it in writing. Put your love in writing. We're now in the get set part of our conversation, where I'm filling in that concept with stories. So I want to tell you one of my own here. So I told you earlier that my dad has a graphics background. I get that. He's a master at creating and drawing and those kinds of things. But he uses a template, a software template. And I am holding in my hands. In fact, right now today in the studio, I have 4 cards sitting around me that I'm looking at right now that just remind me of how much my dad loves me when he puts his love in writing. And my favorite one of all time is the one that says, "This card is presented to our special Michelle on her 50th birthday to tell her all the things we like," and then like has an X through it. And then it says, "Love about her." And then there's a funny looking girl on the front. And I open it up and it says 50 reasons why Michelle is so special. And he's put 4 pictures on there. But oh my word, you guys, I wish you could see this right now in my hands, because he listed 50 things that he had noticed about me and said, this is why we know Michelle is special. He said we, both he and my mom signed it. But listen to what my dad wrote. I'll just give you like my top 5 or 6 favorites. He put, she loves people. Michelle is so special because she sings really good. I was a worship leader at the time. Isn't that neat? He said, she goes the extra mile. Here's another one. She likes perfume day with her dad. And I'm saying that was one of my favorites, because if you heard the program a couple weeks ago, my dad and I shared our story about that. But my dad says, I like that Michelle likes that. See, every dad loves it when he can tell that his daughter is happy, her heart is open. And dads, you have so much to do with how that happens and when that happens. And here's the last one I wanted to share with you that my dad put. He said, she loves the frogs at her house. When I saw that one, I was howling. I went, Dad, that you even noticed and remembered that I love the sound of the frogs. Twice a year, they're going to town down my block, and I love the sound of the frogs. But to have my dad put that in my card, okay, are you guys hearing my heart space open up right now? My dad had to sit there. I can't even imagine the amount of time he had to put into this card to come up with 50 things. I guess I'll have to ask him how long that took him. But the fact that my dad noticed those little nuances, the things about me, do you see how that's going all the way in? And I have saved this card. I've even made a copy of it so that if anything ever happens to this, I've got a backup version, because it has so meant the world to me that my dad would have written that. So here you are at Christmas time, Dad. Each dad, I'm looking at you, you're lined up, and I'm going, Dad, Dad, Dad. I'm going down the line saying, look at my eyes. Do you know that you don't have to go spend any money this year? Okay, you will. I get that, on your daughter. But you could hit it out of the ballpark. You could finish the race and win gold, silver, or bronze by just putting your love in writing and making a card for your daughter that she will save forever. Do it in your handwriting. Even the card that I told you my dad made me, at the back of it, both he and my mom wrote in their own handwriting an additional message. There's something about handwriting, I think because it comes from the person, that just stands out in our technological age from the other things where we see screens all the time. It's our phones, it's our computers, it's social media. But to have your handwriting stand out from all of that sets you apart, Dad. I'm telling you, if you listen to what I'm saying today, do it as a test run. Okay, come on. You guys like a good challenge. Challenge me. Prove me wrong. How about that? Prove me wrong this year. Give your daughter a letter. You could even make it extra special by reading it out loud to her. Okay? There you go. Okay, that's like double whammy of winning. But some dads might go, okay, that's a little cheesy. My daughter might think that's really, really immature or really weird. Okay, then hand it to her. You do what fits for you. But again, remember, I'm here whispering in your ear, giving you ideas that maybe you haven't thought of, or maybe you have. I have a lot of dads that say, I write to my daughters letters every year or for her birthday. Great. I cheer you on. But if you're a dad who hasn't done that, I want to give you more ideas. So as we talk about writing a letter today to your daughters from your heart to theirs, I always like to include a little something that may be for you science buffs that maybe like data. Give me the facts. Well, there's a book called The Female Brain. Did you know that? The Female Brain, it's actually a book. And the author, Lou M. Brizendine, said that females speak approximately 20,000 words a day, and males use 7,000 words a day. Now, granted, that's a gross generalization, but do you get the fact that it's almost 3 to 1 the amount of words that women speak? And this author said that women have many more what she calls, quote, communication events per day than men. Communication events. And she said this includes all that is communicated beyond mere words. She said women tend to activate nonverbal communication through body language, eyebrow raising, gestures. I'm laughing because every one of you dads listening goes, tell me about it. She says so much by her nonverbal communication. But here's what she goes on to say is not only that we as women use more words per day compared to men. I know, shock, shock. But it means that women remember more words than men. And that's how our brains are wired. So in other words, words have great value to females, whether they're communicated verbally or in written form. So here's what I want you to hear, Dad, is that your daughters hold on to the words that you speak, whether written, as we're talking about today, or whether it's with your voice, which I've talked about in other broadcasts. So here's the deal. Dad, it's your choice. Do you want to put your words, your heart of love into action? I don't quote Dr. Phil very often. I always say a little Dr. Phil goes a long way. But I once heard him say something that has stuck with me. He says, at any time, no relationship is neutral. You are either contributing to or contaminating the relationship. Isn't that good? Every moment, dads, if you think, well, I'm not really into affirming, I'm not a verbal guy, that's just not my thing. Okay, put it in writing then. Take the time and do it that way. But here's the deal, dads. Remember that doing nothing, saying nothing, is doing it wrong. By doing nothing, that can actually be contaminating the relationship because your daughter doesn't know the truth of how you see her with value. So dads, I want you to contribute to the relationship, not contaminate it. And I want to give you tools to make that happen. Okay, on your mark today, that's put your love in writing. Put it in writing. Get set. I'm filling it in. And now as we're kind of getting closer to ending the race, I want to give you dads an idea or two, actually. I'm going to give you a lot of ideas today of what you could put into a letter should you choose to write it. Because maybe you're going, okay, Michelle, you've convinced me today. You've whispered to me and convinced me that would be a great Christmas present to give my daughter this year, or maybe for her birthday, or maybe for another event. But I literally don't know what to put into the letter. It's just, I'm not a verbal guy. Words, remember you just said 3 times to 1. You've got the words thing down. So dads, here are some ideas of how you could write a letter to her and what you could put in it. And if you feel stuck, you can go to my website because I like giving you dads resources. So I've got a handout on this topic. So here are some dad to daughter letter writing ideas and concepts. How does that sound? Okay. What if you wrote to her and told her what one of the first things you remember about her when she was born and what it was like for you to look at her for the first time. Can you imagine if she hears from you what it was like to look at her eyes or to hear her little coo or to have her little hand wrap around your finger? Oh, my word. I am telling you, it's going to touch her heart. Maybe you want to include what beauty you saw in her then. What beautiful features you saw in her smile or her long eyelashes. Sometimes my dad's told me that, like when I was a little baby, he said, your eyelashes were so long. And I'm like, really? Like, I love that you noticed that. Maybe you could write her about a favorite childhood memory you have of her. I still remember my dad taking me when I was 5 years old on the San Francisco Pier and fishing. He still laughs about taking me at about 12 hunting with him for part of a day in the Oregon Coast Range. He said I was done after about a half an hour. But see, it's a funny memory that still to this day would probably be true of me. I don't think I'm really into going hunting and sitting out in the cold for a long time. But again, we bond over those kinds of stories. Dads, you could write in your letter what you believe her strengths are, both in terms of her skill and in her character as a person. So sometimes I've had dads tell me, I don't want to build her up too much and give her a big head. Okay, you guys, seriously, you've got to trust me in this. I have never in my 35 years of coming alongside girls ever heard one of them say, my dad builds me up too much. My dad encourages me too much. My dad believes in me too much. So dads, write what you notice that she does right. Write about her character, her personality. Dads, maybe in your letter, you could tell her exactly why you're proud of her. Give specifics. I see your hard work in the way that you've stayed with choir this year because it was really hard. I know you had a tough coach in track this year, but I love the way you didn't finish, even though you never medaled. Those kinds of things. Speak into her life. Write about what obstacles you've seen her overcome. And emphasize qualities like courage, resilience, strength, commitment, endurance, power. Those kinds of character qualities will go far to your daughter living up to what you tell her you see her to be. Maybe you want to write her dreams that you have for the future, whether it's like wishes for her. Maybe that's vague, like I wish for you to be all of who God made you to be. It could be that kind of a wish or a prayer. Write things you pray about her, not without preaching. Dads, I pray that you will break up with the guy that's a no-good loser. Okay, not that kind of thing, but like I pray for your gifts in the area of loving people to be fanned into flame the older you get. Those kinds of things. Maybe you want to tell her what it means to you to spend time with her. Tell her that you know that you will always be there for her. Tell her you will always be there and what it means to you to be her dad. I can't believe God let me be your dad. I am so blessed. I am so happy that I get to do life with you and I'm always here. Last thing I want to just mention, if you're saying, okay, that's a lot of ideas, Michelle, I got a lot to run with. Well, let me give you one more that I really believe will touch her. And it's telling her the meaning of her name. When I was 13 years old, my dad started doing what was called a life notebook. See, if you heard that episode a couple weeks ago where my dad had no template of how to be a dad. His dad died as an alcoholic. But one time someone said, you should do a life notebook with your girls. So I was about 13. My dad said every other week, 1 week with you, 1 week with your sister Jenny. And one of the things that my dad did during our hour together was teach me the meaning of my name. Now, you guys can probably tell I'm a little bit of a dramatic bumpkin. And I remember learning that my name meant, who is like God? My sister Jenny, her name meant gracious. God is gracious. And I'm like, okay, so she has one character quality to live up to, grace. I have the whole character of God. Okay, this is not a good thing. But really, to be honest, I have come to love that name. I'm like, God, I do want to be more like you. I want to embody in my character, in my person, all of who you are. You've made me a lot here. I mean, I know I have a lot of passion and a lot of dreams, and I do want to be like you. So having my dad teach me the meaning of my name actually helped me step more into that, as my identity was already declared when my name was given to me. So dads, if you don't know where to find the meaning of your name, you can just Google it. There's tons of sites that'll tell you that. So I have loved sharing my story with you guys today. Thanks for taking the time to listen, whether you're a dad or a daughter. And today on Your Mark has been put it in writing. Put your love for your daughter in writing. Get set. I filled it in with stories from my life, from some others. And now go. Here's your action step today. Dads, it's the week before Christmas. Get some pens, get some paper, put your love in writing. And if that's not your thing, you can type it out. But I would encourage you to use your own handwriting and give your daughter a card or a letter this year that I guarantee you will be her favorite or one of her favorite Christmas gifts. And remember, you can always write me at drmichelle@thedadwhisperer.com. I love hearing from you. Tell me things you want me to cover in the broadcast. Give me stories of what's happening in your lives at home. And you can always go to my website, drmichellewatson.com, and get more free resources. So Merry Christmas to all of you from my heart to yours, and go Dads.